Basically, I spend probably 200, 250 days a year now on the road speaking. Most of it is speaking, but as you can tell, my background is in the music industry. I was a guitar player for Hanson back in the late 90s, and we were the top selling band in the world, which was an amazing experience. Got to do everything I ever imagined in this industry, from Letterman to Saturday Night Live to playing the White House for Bill Clinton. But one of the stories I'm going to tell at Loyalty Expo is really my first experience of retail, which was getting my first guitar from one of the amazing stores that I would ultimately say is the epitome of customer service and creating customer loyalty. Family-run operation that even all these years later, I still, whenever I go back to Connecticut, I visit them. And it's with that experience in that store that spawned my writing columns in retail magazines for many years about how to really create that kind of loyalty in a retail environment, not just in a sales and store environment, but also from a brand perspective. And how do manufacturers create those relationships with their end users? So I did a lot of writing in that because it fascinated me. Because products like all these beautiful guitars that I'm very fortunate to have are pathways to an experience, pathways to living my dream, and pathways to ultimately having a very full life. Yeah, they're products, but these are products that make dreams reality. And so many of the people that'll be in attendance at the expo are also manufacturing or selling products and services that are helping people achieve their dreams, that are helping people find conveniences in life that make life worth living and enjoyable. And these are very important things to never lose sight of. It's so easy to get caught up in the dollars and cents, but what about the things that really make those deep, passionate connections with a consumer? I think, we traditionally look at customer loyalty as how do we get customers to be loyal to our brands? But I think, the conversation has to shift. It's how can customers feel that the brand is really loyal to them? Because that's what's going to earn customer loyalty is when a customer can simply say, this brand is going to make what I need time and time again. And so that's what customer loyalty today, I believe, is really about. It's really about the brand understanding who their customer is and understanding how to continuously positively influence the lives of their customers. Well, I think there are many more than that, but I'll give you three. I think one of the things that people respond to a lot is the fact that generations have a lot more in common than they do have in difference, and that's a really important thing that a lot of people don't recognize because we're so focused on how do we attract millennials and what are the differences. But what we really should be doing is focusing on what are the similarities. What are the core common values that exist from generation to generation to generation? And the reason for that is not because the others aren't important, but by recognizing these aspects, we gain empathy, which is probably the most important thing to have when trying to bridge generational gaps, is to be able to empathize across generations. Another one is, the concept that millennials are very tech savvy. I actually don't think they're that tech savvy. And that's one of the things that I'll get into in the presentation too, is that we somehow get caught up and I think derailed in the idea that they're so tech savvy that we got to meet them on a tech savvy level. It's more, and I don't want to give it away because I want people to think about it and maybe come to the presentation with their own ideas of, well, if they're not tech savvy, they are tech what? And once we establish that aspect, again, it helps us gain empathy because technology is changing rapidly, right? It's constantly changing. The idea of keeping up with technology is daunting. But if you understand, again, the underlying values of why certain technology is appealing to the generation and how older technology was appealing to the older generation for the exact same reasons, it becomes much easier to maintain that relationship with the millennials. And I think the third big takeaway is what I call the millennial conundrum, which is we can analyze and we can look at all the statistics that are out there, and there's so many that contradict each other, on what this generation is about and what they want. But there's actually a conundrum because what they want versus what they're able to actually do is not always the same. There's a disconnect, and this goes back to the way that they've been educated and the cutting of arts in schools and different things. That if we understand the conundrum that they face, it gives the industries that creates brands and essentially solve problems a heads up on what this generation is looking for. So I think that's part of the big challenge is that we look at all this information of what they want, but we don't necessarily realize that they're not able to always take advantage of the same things that they actually desire. So I hope that all makes sense. I'm trying to put that out there to be somewhat intriguing because it's complex, but it's also simple once we unpack all of that and realize some of the most basic building blocks of human nature that are consistent from generation to generation.